I've been training in Muay Thai, and I've been learning how to implement Shaolin monk mindset into real-time combat fighting. Now, the first time that I tried this was when I was playing card strategy games like Yu-Gi-Oh! If you've ever heard of Yu-Gi-Oh! I was playing the Final Fantasy TCG, and I'd been 6 months in, and I was getting beaten by every single opponent until I understood the deck. Basically, I learned how to swing the sword, let's say. And what happened was I implemented this intuitive strategy where basically I would completely surrender and let go and just tap into peak performance. Now, at the time, this was still kind of like an idea that I didn't really understand. It's just something I felt intuitively. And when I tried it, I won the entire tournament without losing a game. I beat the UK champion and everybody else who I played against. So it was a huge win, okay? And I just followed the process of letting go. That was literally it. I let go and I let my intuition move through me to make the plays, okay? And I didn't think about it. Now, in the same way, what was happening was I was watching One Piece, if anyone's seen One Piece, and I was remembering where Master Rayleigh is talking about feeling the intention behind every punch. Now, in the same way, I was then a few weeks later, coincidentally, Universal Algorithm, I came across a video with a Shaolin monk. And he's explaining to this guy about how he uses visualization to move before he moves. And then he talks about how when you get good at that, you add more intention and energy to your movements. Now, he says that before every movement, there is already an intention. Likewise, with your opponent, there is an intention behind the movement. Now, what we're really doing is when we're tapping into that, we're tapping into the field, which is completely connected with one another, right? Like minds there's no mind that is separate from another mind. They're all connected with consciousness. So if you think of an ocean, each mind is like a whirlpool within that ocean, and they are connected by the ocean. Like one whirlpool carries the same water as another whirlpool. Likewise, consciousness. So what we're really doing is the more that we can surrender and tap into the flow, which is really just the natural movements of nature, we can listen to the sounds around us. To the degree that we can tap back into that is to the degree that we can sense what is usually insensible. And therefore, we experience feeling the next thing that's going to happen. And in One Piece, they have Katakuri, who his ability is like being able to read the future by a few seconds. And he's not really seeing the future. He's feeling into the intention of what's about to happen. So that's why he can't see further than somebody else's intentions. So what he's doing is, like, they call it observation haki, where he's able to sense those, sense the intention behind someone's actions before they make it. In the same way, you can actually do that, and that's actually a Shaolin principle. I tried this in Muay Thai while I was sparring, and there's literally this guy I call Crazy Steve because he's just loose. I hope he's not watching this video. I doubt he'll ever see this video. But he's called Crazy Steve. He's not called Crazy Steve, but like the first time I met him, I was brought up from a really rough background, and he's one of the people who I know that he fights with anger. Like, he fights with anger. There's a chip on his shoulder, whatever reason. So that's the kind of energy he brings to sparring. And I was at I was so tired. And anyway, I was just keeling over on the floor because we'd been sparring for like 40 minutes. And I remember looking up at Crazy Steve standing there in front of me. And I'm like, fuck, this guy now, really? like this guy right now, like of all people. And then I just realized, like, this is the time. This is really the time. And I fully let go and surrendered. And what I noticed in this moment was I could feel everything that he was feeling. I could feel his nerves. He was nervous. I could feel his anger when I hit him, and he didn't want to be hit by me because I'm kind of new. I'm not new to combat sports, but as far as he knows, I've never done it before. And I could feel his anger get more and more the more that I was able to block, dodge, and hit him back. And it was like his movements were slow motion, bearing in mind, this is the most aggressive sparring match that I've had to this date. He hit me so hard that another guy had to stop his fight to say, like, fucking chill. I loved it. Like, I wasn't even offended. I loved it. But the main thing is that when you can feel somebody else's emotion without getting tied into it, that's a superpower. That's beyond empathy. That's beyond being an empath. Not only that, but if you take this experience and you apply it to anything in life, a card game tournament, winning the card game tournament, playing against an opponent where you are physically run down, and being able not to just stand your own, but to do pretty well. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Now, as I've mentioned before, flow state, it comes in two compartments. We've got macro and we've got micro. Macro flow is like every single moment of our life. We are always experiencing macro flow. It is the nature of experience. It's the part of your experience that you do not notice. It's the part where you learn how to open a bottle cap very efficiently. It's the part where you learn how to close a door and the click just perfectly aligns. It's everything. It's always happening. We're constantly learning and growing more sophisticated and efficient in all the activities that we do. I mean, at least hopefully we do. Now, microflow is those smaller moments that we do tap into the flow for a sporting event, for a talk, for a script, or an article or something that we're writing that we want to tap into flow state to. Now, we don't want to associate a flow state with just those moments. We want to recognize macro flow, which is all the time. And that is how we stay consistent in our lives with that. Now imagine if you take those micro moments and apply it to macro the rest of your life. You're going to be able to overcome challenges, overcome obstacles, remove obstacles just without even trying, because you're intuitively doing it. When he was throwing a punch, I could feel where it was going to land. This is where you've probably seen boxers like Muhammad Ali. I'm not saying I was like Muhammad Ali at all. This guy wasn't going full out on me, even though he was pretty aggressive. Muhammad Ali's just dodging like there's no tomorrow. He's dodging like he knows the future, right? And this is the point. Now, you don't just want to experience flow in those moments. You want to bring it into the rest of your life. And this is how you can do it. You surrender to the moment. You surrender to your experience. And you actively listen to what is going on. Listening isn't just with the ears. Listening, if you apply the intentionality of listening to every part of your experience, it's really just awareness. Intentional, conscious awareness. Hyper awareness. You can turn that on. It doesn't have to be off. It doesn't have to be off. Like when it's off, it's like when we're scrolling through social media. That's an example of when we're not really listening. An example of when we are listening is when we have to, usually in fight or flight. Now we want to take the mix, passive and active, and blend the two. And this is what we call flow, active listening to experience, where we can actually find that peace and harmony with everything that we're doing so that we can more consistently find it when we do need it. Thank you for listening.